All right. We're here. Hi, Rita. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for joining me. This is amazing to have yet another awesome, amazing woman in wellness join me on this show. Self-care is my job. I'm really happy to have you. And so me and Rita met on Clubhouse, the new app. For whoever's listening or watching, if you know what Clubhouse is, give us a comment or let us know. If you don't know what it is and you want to know, let us know. We'll send you an invite. But so Rita, you have this club on Clubhouse, Mind Shift for Life Shift, and you've been touching on all these amazing personal development topics. So I'm glad we connected because this is like my jam, right? Like where I like to live. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I'd love to know all the details, who you are, where you're from, and like how you landed in what you're doing now. And of course, tell us, more about what that is and why you're so into self-care and personal development.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rita. I'm the CEO of happybeingwell.com. It's been a journey that led me to develop happybeingwell.com, which is a series of products for self-care needs and spiritual practices. So my background prior, I've been a digital marketer for big brands for over 10 years, such as like Merck and Pepsi and Eli Lilly and etc. So, and small brands as well, like startups as well. So, I got to that whole journey of my marketing experience, marketing for other companies. I've always been heavily involved in personal development because prior to, I had my own business in digital marketing as well, also working for a major marketing agency as well. So I've always, and even prior to that, actually, my first my kickoff my career after university started off as a business instructor for a private college. Actually, that was really the start of really going deep into personal development. So I had to learn ways to connect with my students to improve their marks. That was where I started learning. People have different language styles, people have different programming to get through to them, and motivation strategies as well. So, and then I'm carrying that over into my digital marketing career and working in corporate, where it's can be, as we all know, it can be very, very toxic. So dealing with difficult personalities and the stress levels of a super demanding marketing agency, I would start to incorporate, my deep knowledge of non-linguistic programming into my career. Trying to mitigate, diffuse conflicts, working conflicts amongst coworkers. I would run a meditation room at lunchtime, and then I ended up, taking on clients part-time too, doing NLP sessions. And plus, I'm very spiritual. I've always meditated and going deep into guided meditations, always learning about metaphysics and stuff like that. So it's been a part of my lifestyle, part of my success to deal with stress, to always, whatever goal I have to achieve it. And also in my personal life too, in my relationship. So yeah, I just got to the point where I wanted to fuse my both passions of digital marketing and self-care. So it was a perfect way to mesh the two together and to kind of spread the mission and fun and joy of, doing practices like yoga, meditation, taking care of yourself in other ways, as using organic facial clay masks and taking an epic bubble bath and, using a lot of organic ingredients to amplify the soothing effects of a bath, especially when there's days where you're busy and you're really stressed out and you can't calm your nervous system down. So a bath is a great way to circuit that and get into a relaxed mode. So that's been a part of my journey that led to happybeingwell.com, is to just further spread that mission. Because I know for me, even though I was so I've always been about learning about personal development techniques, but to really get into a routine of really taking care of myself, taking that time using like organic masks and doing more yoga, like really trying to, because there was a point in, where I started turning to eating sugary foods as a way to deal with stress and anxiety. So there was a point where I was like, getting heavier, and it just, as we know, it's not good. It just affected my fatigue. I got fatigued from it, and it was a downward spiral from there. I quickly just snapped out of it and used what I learned in personal development, like guided visualizations, and learned getting back in, using discipline to start cooking for myself and not rely on those quick fixes. Because there was a moment in my career where I was just super busy. And so I didn't have the time to meal prep. So, and I just would go through drive-through. It was just go through drive-through for breakfast, go through drive-through for lunch and dinner. It was just, and then So, and that's what led to Happy Being Well, is just, a big part of it is educating women through blog articles and ebooks. Video tutorials will be coming as well soon. And in the future, I want to have a directory where I can link women with, yoga instructors and meditation instructors, because a lot of them these days, go to your home for that one-on-one training. And so you can go on and just look up who's in your area that you want to have come to your home to have that, because it's a more enriching experience to have that one-on-one experience with a yoga instructor or a meditation facilitator. And plus the fact that you're doing it in your home environment, it's going to amplify your success of actually doing it at home regularly, because you're doing it in an environment where you're actually doing it. And so you're more propelled, as opposed to always thinking you have to go to the yoga studio or the gym or whatever. Especially on days when we're pressed for time. So, and especially, pandemic, we're like, that was not even an option to go to the gym or the yoga studio. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. One of the benefits of this, or one of the upsides of this pandemic situation, is that I just coincidentally, got more private clients who did not want it, whether it was virtual or in person, either way, didn't want to go to the studio, even when they started opening again, like still. And I look at it as a total upside, because I, make these wonderful friendships and connections with these people where I go to their homes and I can help them, in most cases from a totally, beginner level of experience in yoga, and really, offer really targeted cueing and examples, and make and also like kind of hold space for a person who might be questioning, their abilities, or like would totally be comparing themselves to everybody else in the room when you go to a yoga studio. Like there's so many of us that are like, you're not getting like the actual experience of yoga, because what you're totally in your head when you're in that studio, and there's all these people around you trying to do, headstands and stuff, and you're sitting there like, this is not, that was me. And I still, like, I've been teaching yoga for over 2 years, and I've been practicing yoga for probably over 13 years, and I don't do headstands. Because and there are benefits. Don't get me wrong. There are 100%. There are benefits to giving that a go, but there are just so many benefits to yoga and all facets of yoga, whether it's the physical practice, the spiritual practice, whatever it is, that like there's so much. I got plenty of time to tap into all of that. So just curious, like, what type of yoga do you practice, and what's your jam? What's your favorite thing to do?
Mine is like easy yoga. I'm not, some kind of advanced yogi. I do yoga classes. Actually, I was at a yoga retreat in Tulum last year, just before COVID hit, like before like we were in lockdown. So I was like so grateful. Like I just missed the lock. Like I just, I was like, oh thank God, I was in Tulum for 2 weeks and got to like have a vacation prior. So, I had a 1 week of relaxing in Tulum by the beach, just doing whatever I wanted to do. And then the next week I had the retreat. And so, and I'll do yoga classes prior to the pandemic and studios. And, but I don't really have like a set, like I definitely don't do headstands.
Yeah.
I just, like warrior pose, child's pose, cobra and stuff like that. I am not an advanced yogi.
And you practice, you have a home practice or you have an instructor?
So I'll go outside, my backyard, and I'll either do it online with an online instructor, like some kind of video, or I'll just go and I do, just the poses that I know, like some of those basic poses. For me, it's just moving the body, as long as I'm moving the body, and and then I meditate. For me, meditation is very, very important because it helps me because we have so much going on, especially when I'm building and scaling a business. I'm getting ideas. Oh, can I do this? Oh, that's a great idea. Because I'm always getting inspired by something. So, and so my brain's like, always constantly thinking and ticking and ticking. So the meditation just kind of helps me calm that down. And also too, it helps me find more advanced solutions to make everything work. And as well, I mean, there's so many different purposes for meditation, either to make a decision, an important decision that you're struggling with, just to calm the mind down, just have peace and not have any intention but peace. And also it's a great way to increase your intuition, which I'm a big advocate for. When we increase our intuition, we just make better decisions and we're more confident. We're not going into that mind loop of like, well, if I do this is going to happen, or if I do this is going to happen. And, we get stuck in fear and get stuck in the what if, and if I make the wrong decision, what consequences will follow. And, getting stuck in those loops and mind games we as humans tend to play with ourselves. So, it increases our awareness too of how we're playing mental games with ourselves and shutting that down and having your mind work for you, and also to calming the body. And I think, people, it's not talked enough about is we need to have the mind and body work together. And this is why I do the yoga, is because, moving our body releases that serotonin, that dopamine. And there's yoga poses that help, as with digestion and stuff like that. Like yoga is, it is so beneficial in all ways as well. So combining those two practices. And I also, when I do my facial, I love facial clay masks. So what I do, it helps me calm my body down in the mornings. And I do my affirmations, every day, and every way I'm getting better and better, because the clay masks, they're 100% organic. They're come from Mother Earth. And so when they are, it's very healing, and therefore it's soothing. You just automatically feel relaxed. It feels nice when you put it on your skin. So, it's just a great way. We can't take the baths every day and all day, right? It's just a quick hack to get into that, that luxury feel. Plus you get the benefits, of course, with having improved skin, the glowing, and improving your elasticities as well. So that makes you feel good too. Like we all want to look great as women, or men too, right? Actually, men are getting into facial clay masks. So, it is so important because it taps into, anything that's murky that's running in our mental program that we need to address, because it does translate into the choices we make. As like if you are caught into a depression, you're going to make bad choices, right? So it's all about self-mastery and mental mastery that leads to, also in emotional mastery, so that we can get a better handle on how we design our life, as opposed to allowing those bad emotions totally take over, hijack, and we're just being guided by those emotions and letting, it influence our decision making, and getting stuck in maybe a victim mentality, because as we know, every day when we leave our homes, or we don't even have to leave our homes, even with the internet, there's there could be bullying or what have you, or people trying to
A lot
make
of judgment. Yeah.
someone else trying to make somebody inferior, all these things, just because, other people are traumatized and they are not dealing with it. So they want to traumatize other people, and they want to perpetrate that on an unconscious level to make themselves feel better. And, and I feel hopefully as a society, as a collective, with the internet and all the education being distributed through all these channels of increasing our awareness of personal development and of toxic people, that they are traumatized and hurt and they need to heal. Hopefully we can eradicate traumatized people, like we can eradicate toxic behavior, hopefully one day as a society.
Yeah.
So
I'm totally, yeah, continue.
Oh yeah, and just like leading everybody, leading healthy lifestyles, and that part of that is inspiration and education. That's why it's like I sell products, right? Like I sell I incorporate, like I sell like unique yoga leggings, plus their traditional trendy styled yoga leggings, so that you want to wear them, and then I know for me, when I first started my yoga journey, I was like, when I started buying like cute, like, leggings, it's like, okay, I want to, and I used to wear, and I would wear them. Like, I want to do yoga now. So, it's like whatever inspires you, right? So the main mission of the site is inspiration, whether that's through, looking at it and like, oh, that looks so cute on me and it feels so great. Okay, and once you put them on, it's like, oh, might as well do a meditation or a yoga session today. And then or just learning about the benefits of yoga and meditation. I think that's important too. It's like, if you don't know the why, and you just, you're always hearing about different meditation techniques or like different yoga styles, like, is it Ashwanga or, I forget all the different styles, like, and, or tantra. I think there's tantra yoga and stuff like that. Anyway,
You got this.
yeah,
you got it.
And so it's like, but if you don't understand, the benefits of each one, why would you be motivated to really do it? Like, maybe you might do it because it's kind of like the trend and like, oh, I should be doing it. But once you know the benefits of it, you're more propelled to actually do it. So yeah, so it's I got ebooks up there for more education about different meditation technique and the benefits and how they can amplify their meditation practices and yoga practices through, burning incense and sage, and and why does that amplify your practice? Like, I think it's been such a trend, in mainstream, but people are not really, like, not a lot of people know that burning sage actually increases your intuition, right? So, because the smell of it is like aromatherapy, it's an aromatherapy effect, and it has aromatherapy benefits to it. So I think, in the mainstream, it's like, oh, taking away negative spirits, or sorry, negative energy or whatever. It's like, yeah, by way of our psyche, because it calms us down, the sage, smelling the sage, right? So
That's cool. I don't think I knew that. I think I'm gonna have to read up on that. But it does make sense to me, because if the aromatherapy aspect of it is having an effect on your intuition, I think, intuition, I think, is like an amplified version of just like self-trust, right? So like if you have the self-trust, then that eliminates so many other blockages. So we think about, like, sage, most people think about releasing what doesn't serve you, right? And just like pushing away negative energy. But when you think about it, all you really need to be able to do that on your own, in a way, is self-trust. But we don't. So we cling to these like patterns and stories that don't serve us, because um that's what's like embodied, like our personality, and that's what we cling to as like our story, right? Instead of just trusting not only ourselves, but whatever is bigger than ourselves, right? Like whatever we feel we're connected to, universe, source, God, whatever it is, and trusting instead of being in this, like perpetual like story of negativity about what, like you said, the fear, the worry, what might happen, the regret of what didn't happen, all of this, right? You stay there or we can move on. But I think self-trust is like where it has to start, right? So that totally makes sense when I think about it. That's really cool. And I loved what you said about yoga, and, all of the names and the different forms and I mean, it's like, it's irrelevant when you really think about it because the truth is, and I love that you brought meditation into this conversation, because the truth is that mostly the purpose of the physical practice of any form of yoga is to, enhance the flow of energy, connect you to yourself so that you can actually just be still and sit. But you can even think about it just from a physical perspective, right? Like if we have a lack of movement practice in our lives and we are all like stagnant and achy and like, like that sort of and like that, feeling of exhaustion and weight that will come over you if you don't have enough movement, if you're not, you know, if there's not like this agility, like, in your movement and stuff. Um, you get tight, you get stagnant, you get tense, and it's gonna be incredibly even more uncomfortable to sit still. That's why so many people say, "Oh, the worst thing, I can do is sit. I have all this pain in my body, I can't sit." That's why, because you have all this, like, all these blocked energy passages. So really, it's like, and I'm the first one to admit, the first time I ever tried yoga in my entire life, not that I need to admit it, I mean, most people come to the physical practice of yoga for physical benefits, right? I wasn't looking to like lose weight or anything, obviously, or like get skinny. I wanted to release tension, muscular tension in my body from sitting at a desk all day and being on a plane, whatever I was doing in that corporate life that I also experienced. Um, so, that's why I came to yoga too, but you often get so much more than you bargained for, which is, one of the most beautiful things. You get sucked in for one reason and then all the benefits, if you stick with it, all the benefits slowly start to float to the surface and you go, "Oh, I get it." And even if it is just to put on those yoga leggings first to get you, into it, it's the same thing as, it's the same concept as when somebody says to you, "I'm gonna drag you to this yoga class." Like, it's the same thing, and whatever it takes for you to get into that. And I always talk about that from, like, a much larger perspective when it comes to self-care, because self-care doesn't have to be yoga and meditation for any it could be literally anything. It's almost it's almost doesn't matter what it is. It matters, like, what it does to you, how it makes you feel, whatever that thing is for you. So I always talk about that, but also the fact that, again, whatever gets you there doing it, like, go with it, like, jump in. I always talk about jumping in because if you're in a space, like, I work with moms a lot and, we end up getting, me being a mother of 2, talk about all the time how hard it is, right? How hard it is to carve out space and time and energy for yourself when you're taking care of tiny humans and you're up against the expectations of the world for mothers doing all of the things. So we talk about this all the time, and regardless of whether it's motherhood obstacles or just general obstacles of like your very busy job, whatever it is, like issues with your family that you have to be the care many regardless of whether you have kids or not, women, we're like, we're caregivers, we're the caretaker, so we're often taking care of other people if it's not our kids, and all kinds of other things that are obstacles for us being able to prioritize ourselves. So I love how you talked about maybe just put the friggin' leggings on or whatever it is for you, because I always talk about that, like, jump in with however you can jump in, because the benefits of prioritizing yourself, I think one of the first things that happens is that you have completely shifted like your entire vibration and frequency. And I loved it because I just did a self-care for moms workshop and it was proven, like, after session 1, we get on our session 2, and the first thing we're talking about is how one woman got a job offer and another woman was reconnected with somebody, an estranged family member in her life that she missed deeply. And all of these things started to shift. And I had given them homework, of course, to put themselves first over the weekend and to carve out like a full hour of time and whatever it is and have the conversation if they needed to have the conversation with somebody about making sure they had the time and like jump in. And of course, there was this shift in vibration and frequency that, again, we can get into why this might be. We talk about metaphysics and all of this stuff, but like why it might be that you have that much of a quick effect when you shift your own frequency because you were able to do something that made you feel really friggin' good. And all of a sudden, these other things your timeline is shifting, right? Things start to shift. I love it because, of course, we're go right into your club, mind shift for life. We're shifting. So, like, why do you think that happens? Like, because we see it again and again and again, right? Why do you think that happens?
It happens because, and by the way, it also works for the laws of money as well. So when you value money, the people that value money, it always flows to them more as opposed to the people that don't value as much money, meaning the people that are just like, we all know those people, like once they get some money, extra money, it's like, they're just spending it. Like they just, my mother-in-law is like that, she just like likes to spend and, they just don't have a value. They just don't, have a value in saving. Right. So therefore, yeah. So anyways, so same thing with us. Once we value ourselves, we feel better and we're really like, first of all, there's already been studies shown that we release neuropeptides into the air and other people can feel, how we feel, even if you're faking it, even if you're putting on a fake smile, some people can feel like you're faking it, even though it's, because it's, people, we can feel it. We're constantly emitting energy waves off of our body and mind. And so there is a thing to that and people pick up on it, whether they're in the same room with you or not. You become a more valuable asset. And it's just, and that goes with marketing as well. Like, whenever there's a product, and if the product is, whether there's like less of the product, like fear of missing out, people want it, right? Because it seems to be of more value. So it's like, oh, everyone's buying this product, so it must be good, right? So again, that perception of value there. And so, yeah, it's all about valuing yourself and therefore others will value you as well.
That's big, right?
You just feel good. So you feel good, therefore others are going to feel good about you.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same reason, right? That people will say that someone like just looks really good or is glowing because and it's not because, it's not because they lost weight or it's not, they could have been like nothing really physical that changed, but you're glowing in a way because your vibration is being uplifted because something is making you really freaking happy.
When new moms, that's what they say about new moms, like, oh, you're glowing, when women are pregnant, they're holding a precious cargo inside them and they're so happy to give birth to a new baby, right? So that's another example as well of, vibration.
Completely. I can relate to that. But even as of lately, like, I'm happy to say, like I'm getting that a lot from people. Oh my God, you look amazing. You look great. And I'm like, I'm really fucking happy. But the reason, and I can say that because, 6-8 months ago, I was not in the place where I am right now, so it's just like, I'm comfortable being like, oh no, like you're right. There is a pretty distinct friggin' difference, So yeah, that being said, it's just, again, it doesn't mean that I mean, of course, like we really do have to account for mind, body, and soul, right? So I always talk about this when we're talking about, okay, like what do I do for self-care, right? All right, well, there's a few ways that you can decide what you need. First of all, we have to become mindful and we need to slow the hell down. Otherwise, we never even really know what we need because we're not even really connecting to the sensations in our body, that intuition, like the actual signals that are coming from in you that like you're kind of like you can't hear any of it. You can't feel it, you can't hear any of it until you slow down. Um so I always talk about that, but also the idea that I mean, we can focus just on, like, the spiritual side of things, and I love being there, right? And, like, any kind of self-care that's going to make you feel connected to yourself and not, be in constant reaction of the outer world and actually have that time. Like, I know for me, like, once I really started doing this and really started even though, yoga was so much in my life for so long, when I really started to meditate and be serious about making it, like, a routine practice, um, it was just I almost laughed at myself because I was like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Sam, you've been running away from being quiet with yourself for God knows how long, even though it was always important to me, because I always had this very deep inner dialogue, right? Like, with my higher self, like, very deep inner connection with my higher self. But what happens is that whole relationship, that inner relationship just gets, like, drowned out by the noise. Especially I think, like we talked, you mentioned, the corporate environment being toxic, and that's one of those ways is because it's very competitive, you're always reactive, and it's very little focus on yourself. And even if you were to have a moment to congratulate yourself on a job well done, it's fleeting because you better top it the next day or the next week or the next month. It's always more and more and more. So there's very little space for that. So it's like, and then if you're really living that and that's your whole life and your whole personality and you're just embodying it every day, day after day, you lose connection with yourself. So I'm always over here talking about the spiritual connection, spiritual self-care, allowing you to connect to yourself, whatever the hell that is. For me, it's not even just meditation, it's music. So it could be friggin' anything. But yeah, I mean, we do have to take into account the physical, the mind and the body, right? Because they're so connected, and mental health being, really optimal. I think one of the most amazing things that I did as of recently is start this amazing probiotic regimen that's specific to mental health, and it's like kind of a lifesaver. So we had to take all the things into account, meaning slow down, be mindful of listening to your body and its needs, but then you can break it down. Okay, what does my mind need right now? What does my body need right now? What does my soul need right now? And we can go so much deeper than that. I love that you even talked about masks and such, like things like that. I will be the first one to so I still put, like, skincare and stuff like that. Personally, I'll put that in like the luxury self-care sort of category. But admittedly, when I first got on this self-care journey, like I was this one over here that was like, that's like, you guys need to focus on what you really, really need inside, right? Forget about the skincare, forget about the oils. That's all later. That's, it's luxury to some extent. But I have shifted my view a bit in over the last year or so, because again, it's not necessarily like you even said it. It's about like that time that you're carving out for yourself. And it's like it literally doesn't matter, like any form of prioritizing and if it is like getting that manicure and pedicure, okay, fine. But at the same time, like, are you relaxed when you're getting that manicure pedicure? Or are you still on your phone doing work? Are you rushed because you're just fitting it in because it's really just about making them look good? Like, so I like to like sort of guide people of like, okay, but like what would support you even more wholly in that time, in that probably that short amount of time that you do have, right? But yeah, it just, that's kind of what came up for me. And I love the fact that we're talking about a little bit about that vibrational shift too that happens. So I wanted to ask you too, because going back to what you said in the beginning, um, NLP, right? You mentioned.
Right. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what that is, because I'm vaguely familiar, but I would love to know more.
So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's pretty much techniques to communicate with your unconscious mind and the unconscious mind of other people. So, so it basically it's basically a deep dive into the subconscious mind and how it operates and how it's the main driver of human behavior and how that subconscious mind basically processes information and language. And so, developing and building that muscle to basically be a better communicator with yourself and others for shifting, like for better influencing yourself effectively to, eliminate a bad habit, for example, and installing a new one. And with others, being a much more efficient communicator that would influence them in a positive manner. And also just making sure the message is clear when speaking with others, and just your awareness and increasing your awareness levels of different personality styles as well, and adapting and being flexible. It's just, it also in you being mindful of the need to be flexible in your thinking and not be so rigid. So it's those are a few. Yeah, that's pretty much, I would say in a nutshell, what NLP is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I've met a few people who dabble in that, and I'm like getting more and more curious about whether or not I should be trained in such a thing, because it sounds like really, really good for people who are coaches. I would think that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, tell us too, like kind of going back into your, personal journey, right? Because you mentioned that you had this background in corporate and you were representing big brands in marketing. Like, do you still work in corporate, or have you
No,
left that world entirely?
I've left that world entirely. So I'm just focusing. I'm just focusing on happy being well. Grateful for what I learned in corporate. Learned so much, in regards to dealing with other people and communication and course marketing. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm with you. I am with you. I was kind of abruptly left my position in publishing when I was 8 months pregnant with my first child because I was laid off, and I will never look back. I mean, I remember the first thing that happened. One of the first things that happened is that, I mean, obviously after giving birth, because that was probably the first thing that happened. But I remember thinking, even though I'm carrying around this baby and, and I'm on my feet all day now as opposed to sitting at a desk, right? My body feels 1,000 times better, and I just gave birth and I'm on my feet all day. So like, I remember being like, oh my God. So even it was just the physical, right? Like being, super, also having really pressed myself right back into yoga after being laid off and having it be like this really stressful time. Yoga really like saved me. I was practicing, but not as regularly at the time. And I threw myself right back into it. And I remember thinking, yeah, I mean, I've definitely been practicing yoga more, so this is probably part of why I feel a little bit better. But like just being blown away by the fact of how that, like being stagnant and stuck at a desk all day and in like this same shape, like I knew it was causing me like shoulder issues, but I didn't know it was quite to the degree of like full body difference that I felt. And that was one of my first inklings of like, I am not going back. Like I can't, I can't do that. But of course, then having the release of like so much anxiety. I mean, I did for a long time translate all of that anxiety and perfectionism onto being a mother. And that's really what led me here, because once I did that, I went down a whole nother path of really just not a good place, like a whole nother level and variety of anxiety that I didn't know existed. and that's why I needed self-care so badly. And of course I wasn't really even categorizing it as that at the time. I just knew that I needed to find a way to prioritize myself. and that no, even if I needed to save myself, and even if I were to get, judgment and, rolling of the eyes or whatever, or anywhere in between, whatever it might be, when I would be leaving my baby to go to a yoga class, or leaving my baby, you know, like leaving the child with her father. But the judgment that kind of comes with that a little bit. So I remember thinking to myself, now that I have a handle on this, I would really like to help other moms do this, because we really don't. And again, it's not even about, I think as women, we are very much either we're just like fully invested in whatever it is, right? Like so fully invested. So because we have that high level of intuition, and we have that high level of like that need, that nurturing need. We birth things, literally, like we're creators. So so there's this deep connection to whatever it is that is your thing, whether it is your job or your children or other or whatever it is. So it's hard to see where the little pieces of yourself might be flying off and away. I don't know if you experienced anything like that, at any point, as far as like, the idea of coming home to yourself, or like, starting to do things that like you want to do, but you stopped doing, kind of on that path.
I think I've experienced that, in relationships, past relationships of mine, like in my 20s yeah, all throughout my 20s. Being in relationships where I would, my partner would expect me to spend more time with them, and I would literally give up things like volunteering, or other projects that I would be working on, just so I would be, making them happy, thereby kind of not, kind of diminishing my identity, because a part of my identity would be, doing the volunteering and being a part of community. When I'm not working, or, or in my university days when I'm not in school. So that's the only point in time when I would ever feel like I was kind of losing a bit of myself, to be a good partner, or be a, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? It's sort of, it's the expectations that are set out for us, like that you need to check off those boxes to be considered, right? The good girlfriend, the good partner, the good wife, the good mom. So once we start to live our lives on those terms, I mean, obviously there's going to be stuff that goes by the wayside, whether that's self-care, or whether that are, and I consider that to be self-care, like you said, your volunteer work, things that you're really passionate about, whatever it is. That's
Mm-hmm.
self-care, because those are ways, I consider that stuff spiritual self-care, because if it's something that you're naturally drawn to, then you are supposed to be doing it. It's a part of you, and it keeps you grounded and connected to like your true essence. And then you start to, put everything else first, and you lose that. Um, so that makes sense to me, of course, because that's what we do. We prioritize everyone, and we need to be reminded that we're just as important. Beautiful. So I always like to, towards the end, just sort of talk, bring it back home to self-care, although I love that we stayed right here in this little pocket for most of the time. But aside from yoga and meditate, like, you gave us like so many like great things, and I know that you've got a lot of like products and other things on your site. So any other like things that either work really well for you, or like non-negotiables for your daily routine, or recommendations for people who are listening, like who are thinking, well, I don't even know like where to start.
So I think for me, like once I wake up and start my day, the first thing I really do is I do my skincare routine religiously. I just addicted to my skincare routine. And I incorporate my affirmations with it. So affirmations are so powerful because when we speak things out loud, we're releasing an energy vibration and we're hearing it. And therefore, so I think my most popular affirmation is every day I'm getting better in every way. It's something that I know there's a little bit of a controversial when it comes to affirmations. And so, which I think that we should exercise caution with affirmations as well, depending at what level you are at with your belief systems, right? In terms of what you believe in yourself. So if somebody is really suffering from severe limiting beliefs or negative beliefs about themselves, if we were to correlate this with muscle testing, so it's been proven through muscle testing that when we lie and we know we're lying, we'll get weaker. And so, so this is where we need to be careful, and so like if you say something about it, you don't believe it, it could work in the reverse, right? So we have to say things that, that's why I really like the every day I'm getting better in every way, because that's a statement that is just referencing progress. And, and who doesn't, we all can believe in progress.
Right.
Practice makes perfect, right? Type of thing. So, affirmations and what am I grateful for is very powerful because that automatically is a hijack to increasing your vibration. When you're, I'm grateful for my home, I'm grateful for the healthy food in my fridge. I'm grateful for the money that I have. I'm grateful for my ability to think of strategies and solutions so that I can amplify my success further, and the love in my relationships, and the deep connections that I have with friends and family, and the connections that I'm able to make with my, communication skills. Or you can just be grateful for the fact that you speak English. With, some people are immigrants and they have to learn English, and so that's this is something like English is something that you can be grateful for little things that other people have to really work hard to acquire, and it just really kind of elevates your energy vibration, and it opens the door to possibilities like that are right at your fingertips that you can create. Mm-hmm. So gratitude journaling is huge for me, especially when I was younger. Definitely journaling. When you're a young girl, learning to navigate the world and your emotions, and dating and all these things. When you're young, everything is new for you. So and just being in tune with what's going on in your body. Like, I think this is one thing that like is my muscles tense? Is my heart racing faster? Like you can do this if you're watching a movie. Like, how does your body feel as you're watching the movie? Because we don't, by default, don't really know what's really going on in our body because we're so in our heads, because we're constantly thinking, okay, what do I have to do today? Okay, I have to work. I have this client call, I have this meeting. Okay, after this, I got to make dinner. I got to go to the grocery store. We're running out of, almond milk. We're just, using our minds to function in our day-to-day lives a lot. So we abandon our body, like how our body is feeling in the moment. So once we're tuned in, we're more connected with ourselves and what we're really feeling, right? As opposed to just walking around like a robot on automation, which is very easy for us to do because it's part of our nature just to kind of get things done quickly. Especially when we're doing things on a habitual routine, we're just doing it on default, right? So taking time out though to pay attention to how your body is like feeling and what it's doing. So we're more connected with ourselves. And thereby, when we connect with ourselves, we can be more connected to other people.
Completely. Yeah, I love that. The connection is like my jam lately. Like it's what I can talk about like all day long. And just because this is what's coming up for me as far as connection and self-care, it's like We also not only connect with people when we like elevate our own vibration, we also don't like it's not just about the words we say, although that's probably going to be a benefit, right? Like being able to communicate more wholeheartedly, show up more fully, and authentically. But we're also um influencing, like it's like a trickle down effect, like and I say this only because I experience it so much in my own life of like wondering, and so many of us I'm sure can relate to this, wondering why so and so isn't doing, taking better care of themselves or whatever, and like wanting to get in there and like fix it, right? And we can't do that. We can't do that. But the more that we do work on ourselves, the more we can influence the people around us. So that's just real quick what kind of came up for me there. I was getting a bit of that, and it's great because you're doing plenty of that. So thanks. Because it comes full circle back to what you were saying about kind of like this collective elevation that we're in the midst of. Ideally, we all come to a space eventually where we're not in a state of victimhood. We feel and we take back our control over our own fulfillment and happiness and health, as opposed to, sort of waiting for the perfect moment or waiting for somebody to come in and do it for us, or just kind of sitting in this space of like it is what it is. I'm totally with you. I think we got a while to go, but I think we're on the way to, people really just coming to this complete like space of ascension where it's just like a completely different approach to life, which I love. And if I can be this big a part of it, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So thank you for joining me. This has been such a great conversation. I love connecting with you. I'll catch up with you on Clubhouse, I'm sure. I'll see you
Yeah,
over
for
there.
sure. Yeah, for
Perfect.
sure. We love when you join our room. The room is always fun, and it's more
It
amplified
is.
when Sam is there.
Yes, I got to get in there. I love it. No, it was really great the couple times I was able to join you. So I'm so with you. And so real quick, just tell us where we can find you online, and then I'll make sure that I put that in the notes in the description on YouTube as well.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on my website, happybeingwell.com. And on my Instagram page, the handle is at happybeingwell. And on Facebook, at happybeingwell. And my personal Facebook page, I've got two names. I have to change it. I go by Rita socially. But my personal Facebook page is Cettina Rita Farruggia. But the quickest way to find me is at Happy Being Well on my Happy Being Well handles. And so, yeah.
Perfect. I'll get all that in there. Go check out Rita's website, happybeingwell.com. A lot of really good stuff on there. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. And if you're listening and you're enjoying this, remember that you can follow us on all of the podcast platforms. Self-Care is My Job on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so on and so forth. On the YouTube channel, Self-Care is My Job. Make sure to give us a subscribe and a like.